Hello everyone, the Hindu analysis for 5/9/2018. The first news item, state panels to track hip implant patients. So this basically with respect to a state level committee which is consisting of the two orthopedic surgeons and a physical medical rehabilitation experts and one radiologist from the government hospital. So these people would be representing the central drug standard control organizations, and the drug controller for respective states should be formed to identify the patients who have received the faulty hip implant which has been done by the pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson. So this basically with respect to the hip implant which has been done by the Johnson & Johnson, there was a faulty hip implant which has been done. So the committee has recommended among the other things that the constitution of a central expert committee and the regional expert committees for determining the exact quantum of compensation. So which would be a minimum amount of rupees 20 lakh. The compensation would be further calculated based on the factors, that is based on the degree of disabilities and also on the loss of the wages. So based on the disability to what had happened and the loss of the wages is what the compensation would be given to the people of the faulty hip implant, and the patients can now directly move on for the committee, that is directly they can approach the committees. So here the Johnson & Johnson articular surface replacement, that is ASR hip implant manufactured by its subsidiary DePuy Orthopedics was actually recalled globally in 2010, that is after the reports which was leaching metals, and this was causing a very severe pain of fluid accumulation and metal poisoning in patients. So this was one of the reports which has been brought in, that it was having a leaching of metals and also which was causing pain, fluid accumulation was happening more, and it was also poisonous for the patients in return. So for the first time in 2011, the Maharashtra Food and Drug Administration first initiated an action against the pharmaceutical giant by registering an FIR at the Mahim police station. So based on this particular issues, where right now expert panel committee has been set up, and they're saying that we need to get in information of the patients who have been got with a faulty hip implant. So you have the basic informations out here, so just go through with them. The next one, custodial death. Supreme Court wraps Maharashtra police. This is basically with respect to the bench which has increased the prison sentence of the accused Maharashtra police, which had offered actually earlierly was 3 years, but right now it is increased to 7 years in case of the custodial torture, where a man had died in the police station cell in the year 1993. So the court had already reminded that the police be you ever so high, but the law is always above you. So this trying to get the things under control. So here basically the Supreme Court wants to observe that, realize that the democracy means to achieve criminal control is an important as it end itself. So with the great power comes a great responsibility. So this what is the Supreme Court had observed in the situations of the lockup deaths or any other areas which has happened in the prisons and also the jails. On getting a complete restraint of that, right now the bench has declared 7 years jail for the custodial torture which has been happened in the year 1993 to the Maharashtra police in return. The next one, GM mustard trails may get not soon. So this is with respect to the main ministry point is what I've given, but you can go in detail. The Environment Ministry is set to convene with this particular month a special meeting of the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee to decide on a field trial approvals for the controversial transgenic mustard developed by the University of Delhi. So this is like for genetic manipulation of the crop plants. So this accordingly to the persons familiar with the developments. So what happens here is that they're trying to do a special meeting on the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee and to have more field trial approvals for the controversies to what's happening with respect to the mustard which has been developed by the genetic manipulation crop. So here the CGMPC had earlier applied to grow transgenic mustard, that is DMH11, in plots in Delhi and also in Punjab to test the plant efforts on the honeybees, that is after the GEAC, but which had initially cleared the GM crop for commercial cultivation. So backtracked and demanded more tests and additional data on honeybees and other pollinators and also the soil microbial diversities. So this is basically with respect to getting trials which might get a not soon. So whatever the trials they have to do it for the mustard, they would be getting this about it. For more details you can always go and check with your newspapers, but as of now this would be sufficient. JCI Mishra names Gogoi as successor. This is with respect to Chief Justice, that is Deepak Mishra, the present Chief Justice, has recommended the Justice Ranjan Gogoi as his successor and the 46th Chief Justice of India. So it is the government which have to approve the recommendations to what has been coming from the present Chief Justice of India. That's Justice Gogai, who would have a tenure as a Chief Justice of India about 13 months. That is from October 3rd, 2018, as Mr. Justice Deepak is getting retired on October 2nd, till his retirement on November 17, 2019. So he would be the first Chief Justice of India from the Northeastern region. So far, no other Northeastern region person had become, or recommendation of the name has happened. So he is the son of Keshav Chandra Gogai, who was a former Chief Minister during the Congress regime in 1982. So we have to just look on to more developments on this. The next one, mixed response to IB Ministry's fight on Dalit. So this with respect to the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, which has directed the media platforms to avoid using the word Dalit in favor of the scheduled caste. So because this has invoked a mixed response among the community leaders in the BJP, which heads the ruling NDA. So the word Shudra was Sanskritic, and also use of Harijan to denote the community was steeped in the religious ethos. So the word Dalit is very political, is what is being said out here in its meaning and connotations. So it is an assertion and aggression to it as well. So each word has a journey, and the word should be allowed to die organically rather than like this. So this is one of the important aspects to what had happened. And the ministry is also directive to some of the social justice and the environment, that is empowerment ministry, which has advised the government departments that the word Dalit not to be used in the official communications. So this is what is being coming from the social justice and the empowerment minister. So this is about it, and in the editorial column you have details about it. You can just look on to it. That's a consecutive days you've had an editorial. The next, Election Commission eases the rule on the use of speakers for campaign. So this with respect to the Election Commission, which had actually issued an instruction which has relaxing the rule on the use of the loudspeakers for campaigning purposes, that is from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So earlierly it had instructed that any vehicles on any kind electioning the purposes during the entire election period, starting from the date of announcement of election and ending with the date of declaration, should be permitted only between 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So this was the Election Commission which has instructed earlier, but right now it has relaxed it and it started allowing it for 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So no moving loudspeakers could be used beyond the time period which has been prescribed by the Election Commission in any area, and the political parties and the candidates are required to get a prior written permission from the authorities concerned, and also the shares, the specification and other particulars for using the public address systems during the campaigning and also the public meetings. So basically the Election Commission has relaxed from the earlier restrictions to what has been done, and right now it's allowed from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The next, Google to help Election Commission to track online political ads. So here we have the Google, which is having the lion's share on the digital advertising market, will help the Election Commission to keep all the tabs on the online political advertising. So here the tech giant will develop a mechanism that will not only ensure a pre-certification of political advertisements, but also enable it to share with authority the details about the expenditure which has been incurred on the platforms. So here this is with respect to the explore of the possible modifications in the section 126, that is the election silence, and also the other provisions of the RPA, that Representation of the People Act 1951, in view of expansion and diversity of the media platforms. So here the Google representative told the commission that the company would keep a track of the political advertisements and also ensure that they are being pre-certified by the Election Commission media certification or also the monitoring committees. So the commission is a nodal body for pre-certification. That's the Election Commission nodal body for the pre-certification of advertisements of a political nature which has been released by either an individual or by an organization. So this is how the Google representative said that we would be able to track, and Google also assured the committee that would set up a mechanism for sharing information on the cost of the political advertisements. So this would also use for returning the officers when it comes to calculating the election expenditures of individual candidates. So this is another mechanism which would help to use returning officers while calculating the election expenditures. And the EC committee had also earlier held the meetings with the framework, that is a Election Commission has also held a kind of a framework talk with the Facebooks, which has also agreed to develop a tools for removing any content pertaining to election matters during the 48 hours period with the prohibition protocol in its place. So it's not only with the Google, earlier also the Election Commission has held a meeting with the Facebook with the same with respect to 48 hours of its period where the prohibition protocol was in place. So this is about it. The next one, Trump warns Syria, Russia, Iran against Idlib tragedy. So here we have the US President Mr. Donald Trump warned Syria against launching an attack on the country's last rebel stronghold, that is with the help of Russia and Iran, saying this would trigger a human tragedy. So here the Syrian forces are amazing around the northwestern province of Idlib in the preparations of the assault. So here the president as must look on, the president of Russia must not recklessly attack the Idlib province. So this is what has been coming from the USA. The Russians and the Iranians would be making a grave humanitarian mistake to take part in its potential human tragedy, and also there would be the UN and aid groups have warned that the fault assault on Idlib could spark a humanitarian catastrophe, and also it might scale not seen in Syria's 7-year-old conflict. So this might be something which would be witnessing, which was not being seen in Syria from the past 7 years, even after having a conflict out there. And Kremlin said that the Syrian army is getting ready to solve the problem of terrorism in Idlib, apparently referring to a looming regime of offensive. So this is like the warnings which is being coming to Syria from USA and other sectors with respect to where Syria is taking a move to make it more triggerative when it comes to Idlib province, taking the help from Russia and Syria. The next one, FPI outflow concerns preposterous SEBI. So this is a day after an association, that is a foreign funds which has warned a potential outflow that is of $75 billion from the Indian security, that's equity markets, over a circular which was issued by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, which is on the month of April. So here they're saying it to be very highly irresponsible. So this was one of the statement. And here the secretary, the Department of Economic Affairs, said that the issue was not so complex and the NRIs were allowed to invest directly in the Indian markets. So this was with respect to the NRIs and the OCIs and the PIOs, where there have been had a blanket ban when it comes to the investments into the FPIs, and based on that there are certain talks which has been going on. So NRIs were actually being permitted to invest in the Indian securities, but the limit was up to 5% which NRI can invest in a single security. But when NRIs, when they try to manage the funds from the others through the fund management or a register as an FPI, so the issue has come where this NRIs, they would become a beneficial owner if they try to manage and register as an FPI, and this has been defined under the SEBI. So this is an economic interest as well as you can manage, but this is not permissible as per the rules, and that's why the SEBI has signed up with the circulation so that they need to stop up, and at the same time it has given 6 months time for to get up with a change in the structure or wind up from their position in India. But the president of the Asset Managers Roundtable of India, which is spearheading the ongoing move of the Make Policies Review the Framework, it's telling that this circular is creating an impression that all the NRIs and the resident fund managers managing the funds are facilitating a tainted monies without any empirical study or evidences. So this was a kind of a restlessness to what has been coming from the AMRI, where it's telling that to whatever the resident funds or the impressions to NRIs are trying to managing the funds, it's looking that we have not done any kind of study or evidences, and it's like defaming us in written. So it is also to be recognized that the circular is causing an existential crisis for NRI, especially the fund managers and the resident fund managers who have invested a huge time and resources in attracting the foreign investments into India. So this was a great concerns to what they have to get sorted out, and right now the panel has looked on to get more auditing, and also they're trying to get the recommendation from different panels so that the SEBI would look forward the issue and understand whether it has to scrap the circular or it has to continue with the circular. The next one, breakthrough achieved in RCEP talks, claims India. So this with respect to the Commerce and Industry Minister said that the negotiation for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership would not end in 2018 but would spill over 2019. So this was a kind of a breakthrough in understanding India's concern, which had helped a meeting in Singapore on August 30 and 31. So this is actually a 16 nation group which has accepted some key demands from India, that is based on the differential tariff regimes for different countries group likes China, and it is allowing a 20-year implementation period of the agreement. So the package of the substantial deliverables would be agreed in the November this particular year, but not the preferential trade agreement, so which would be negotiated for the more 6 years itself. So this was one of the clarification. And another key area where India scored was in establishing a linkage between the services and also the goods negotiation. So this was one of the negotiation which was being done again, given that some countries were not also welcoming and allowing the movement of the labor. So most of the countries were also opposing the movement of labor in return, and we have clearly said, that is from India counterpart, they said that the RCEP stands for Regional Cooperation and Economic Partnership. It is not the goods partnership alone. Economic partnership envisages that the services must be integral part of the trade as well. So this linkage that has been accepted. So this, which is again a good part where the move which has been said that goods alone will not make up with the partnership, but also the services also, which has been accepted. And the 16 countries that have been negotiating for the RCEP, India does not have a free trade agreement with 3 countries, that is Australia, New Zealand and China, for which negotiation which has to be held separately apart from whatever the negotiation has been happening right now. So this would happen with respect to the bilateral pairing mechanism, so that the free trade agreement, India will go ahead and have it with Australia, New Zealand and China on the bilateral pairings. So we have been highlighting that we cannot negotiate through the RCEP route. With these 3 countries, we have to separately negotiate. India's decision has been accepted. So as discussed earlier, India would be getting the negotiation done with respect to the bilateral pairing mechanism, but not on the route of the RCEP. So this is about it. And the next one, rupee breaches 71.5 versus the dollars. So the year the rupee has weakened the 5th consecutive session, and it is breached to be $71.5 on the concerns over worsening the macroeconomic parameters, which has also raised the oil prices in return. So this is after closing with $71.21. The currency opened marginally lower with $71.24, and it also weakened hit new long during the end of the trading session. So here the rupee has been depreciation with almost like 11.5% so far, and it is worst performing currency in the entire Asia this particular year. So here the RBI has not been intervening aggressively to curb the rupee fall, because there is a speculation about the interest rate hikes to halt the depreciation, and the RBI's intervention is very less despite the fact that the forex reserves are around like $400 billion right now. So there are certain talks out of the monetary policy interest rate hike by the RBI and issuance of the NRI bond issues to raise the dollar money. So this is one of the aspects of RBI, and the rupee has depreciated over 6% since June. So that is when the central bank started raising the interest rate. You should know what is the interest rate right now. And talking about the sterilizations cost here, the sterilizations at a dollar purchase are sterilized through open market sale of the government bonds by the RBI comes with the associated cost. So these costs arise because the RBI, that is in lieu of sterilizing, substitutes a higher yielding government securities with lower yielding foreign securities. So this is like one of an area to why they're trying to say is that it is actually substituting the higher yielding government compared with the lower yielding foreign securities. So this particular aspect you would understand once the classes is being done, but right now understand the development pertaining to rupees. The next one, Wi-Fi on flights, DOT to invite applications. So here the Department of Telecommunication will invite the applications for Wi-Fi onboard flights in October. So this is a roadmap for in-flight connectivity, which would be finalized, and this would be a kind of a committee of securities which would be headed by the cabinet secretary. So this has identified that the in-flight connectivity as a separate service servicing requiring a license, and this application services would be invited in the month of October. So it was not immediately clear whether the solicitations of the interest would be from internet service providers or from the airlines keen to offer the service to the passengers. So right now the solicitations of the interest is not still clear whether it's going to be coming from the interest services or from the airlines. So it may DOT in the month of May approved a proposal for the telecom regulatory body that's tried to allow the passengers to make a phone calls and access Wi-Fi provided on board data was routed through the satellite gateway on Indian soil to enable the lawful interceptions. So this with respect to the try as actually allowed for them to have an Wi-Fi which has been provided on board, and also this would happen through a satellite gateway. So this is about it, but still the clarification is not clear to who is going to give up with the services providers. The next one, Lockheed Tata in JV to make F-16 jet wings. So there is a major boost to Make in India initiative where the American security and aerospace giant Lockheed Martin, which has announced the wings of its F-16 fighter jets will be produced in the which would be produced in India. So this basically is what been announced, and this has actually entered into an agreement with the Tata Advanced System Limited for this particular project, and it had offered to move its entire F-16 manufacturing base to India. So to whatever the plan has been happening right now, so Lockheed is telling that it's moved the entire manufacturing base to India, and India is yet to make a decision on it. India has still not made any moves. So producing F-16 wings in India will support the its centers Make in India initiative, because here we want to manufacture everything in India. Building the F-16 wings in India is a natural step that builds on our own partnership with Tata on C-130J, that is Super Hercules airlifter, and S-92 helicopters. So this is one of the aspects to what is being brought in. So once it's been ready, and you will get more developments on this, so we'll see them in the consecutive newses. The next one, Japan to test mini space elevator. So this is the Japanese team which has developed a space elevator. This would be conducting the first trial this particular month, which would be blasting off a miniature version on satellites to test the technology. So it is almost like 6 meters, that's centimeter long, 3 centimeter wide, and 3 centimeter high. So the first step is that the movement of the motorized elevator box will be monitored with cameras in the satellite so that they could know what are the best movements of it. And it is still a far cry for the ultimate beam me up goals of the project, because which it builds on a long history of the space elevator dreams. So the idea was first been proposed in 1895 by the Russian scientist, but after he saw the Eiffel Tower in Paris, so the time he saw it and for the first time, the idea was being mooted and it was being proposed by the Japanese construction, which are exploring the other ways to build its own space elevators to put the tourist in space in 2050. So that's the main ideology when it comes to Japanese, and the company has said that it would use a carbon nanotube technology which is more than 20 times stronger than steel. So this would build a very lift shaft up to 96,000 kilometers above the earth. So this is like a kind of a technology use what they would be doing in return. The question for the day is that you need to locate Idlib. Secondly, you have to brief on RCEP. So I can just answer them. So these were the important news items for 5th of September 2018. Thank you.